Every nation has a dreamer. But what happens when one man's dream becomes the foundation of an entire country? Today, we're talking about a man whose pen moved history, whose heartbreak turned into vision, and whose legacy gave birth to a nation, Theodor Herzl. Who was he? What drove him? And how did his idea, dismissed by many as fantasy, eventually become the modern state of Israel? Let's find out. Theodor Herzl was born on May 2, 1860, in Pest, part of modern-day Budapest, Hungary. He came from an upper-middle-class Jewish family, not deeply religious, but culturally Jewish and proud of their heritage. He grew up in Vienna, the capital of the Austro-Hungarian Empire, a hub of art, philosophy, and ideas. Herzl studied law but soon found his passion in literature and journalism. He was elegant, charismatic, and ambitious. In another life, he might have become a celebrated playwright. But beneath Vienna's polished surface, Herzl saw cracks. Antisemitism, deep and venomous, was growing across Europe. Even in refined salons and universities, Jews were treated as outsiders. The event that changed everything for Herzl happened not in Austria, but in France, the birthplace of liberty. In 1894, a Jewish officer in the French army named Alfred Dreyfus was falsely accused of treason. Herzl, then a journalist for a Viennese newspaper, was sent to Paris to cover the trial. What he witnessed shook him to the core. Crowds shouting, "Death to the Jews," respectable newspapers fueling anti-Semitic rage, and an innocent man convicted, not for what he did, but for who he was. Herzl realized something chilling, that Jews would never be accepted as equals in Europe. No amount of assimilation or loyalty could protect them. In his private diary, he wrote, "In Paris, I achieved a freer attitude towards anti-Semitism. Above all, I recognized the emptiness and futility of trying to combat anti-Semitism." And so, Herzl began to write. In 1896, Herzl published a short but explosive book, Der Judestaat, the Jewish State. Its argument was simple, yet revolutionary. The Jews are one people. The solution to anti-Semitism is not tolerance, but sovereignty. The Jews must have a state of their own. But where? Herzl initially considered Argentina, even Uganda, but he soon gravitated toward Palestine, the ancient homeland of the Jewish people. He wasn't a religious man, but he understood the power of collective memory, Jerusalem, Zion, and the longing embedded in Jewish liturgy for centuries. Next year in Jerusalem. Herzl wasn't calling for a religious state, he envisioned a modern, secular, European-style nation, safe and dignified for Jews. In 1897, Herzl organized the first Zionist Congress in Basel, Switzerland. Over 200 delegates from around the world came together, Orthodox rabbis, secular intellectuals, Russian Jews fleeing pogroms, and young pioneers dreaming of a new life. Herzl stood before them and declared, "At Basel, I founded the Jewish state. Perhaps in 5 years, certainly in 50, everyone will realize it." It was a moment of vision, of unity, of radical hope. Herzl was now the president of the World Zionist Organization. He began lobbying world leaders, the German Kaiser, the Ottoman Sultan, the Pope, and even the British, to secure a legal home for the Jews. They all listened, some politely, some with suspicion. Herzl wasn't taken seriously at first. He was ridiculed as a utopian. Some Jews rejected him too, fearing backlash or accusing him of abandoning assimilation. Still, Herzl pressed on. Herzl traveled continuously, Istanbul, London, Rome. He was trying to negotiate with empire. He offered the Ottomans money and development in exchange for Jewish settlement rights in Palestine. But every door eventually closed. Even the British Uganda proposal in 1903, which offered land in East Africa, nearly split the Zionist movement. Herzl saw it as a temporary refuge for persecuted Jews, but most rejected it. At the same time, Herzl's personal life was unraveling. His marriage was unhappy, his health declined, he had no time for his children. And everywhere he turned, he faced resistance, from Jews and non-Jews alike. Still, he kept going, until his body gave out. In 1904, Theodor Herzl died of heart failure. He was just 44 years old. He was buried in Vienna, but in his will, he wrote, "I wish to be buried among the Jewish people in the Jewish state, which I believe will arise." He didn't live to see the Balfour Declaration. He didn't see the Holocaust. He didn't see Israel's founding. But 44 years later, in 1948, the State of Israel was declared. And Herzl's body was reburied on Mount Herzl in Jerusalem, where he rests today as the father of modern political Zionism. Herzl wasn't the first to dream of a return to Zion, but he was the first to organize it, politicize it, and globalize it. He didn't build Israel with bricks, but with words. His vision was not only for Jews in danger, but for a rebirth of dignity, a place where Jews would govern themselves, speak their own language, and write their own destiny. Today, some celebrate Herzl as a prophet. Others critique him as a utopian whose dream became a source of conflict. But none can deny, Herzl changed the course of history. As he once wrote, "If you will it, it is no dream." That single line became a national motto, etched on Israel's spirit. Herzl died thinking he had failed. But in truth, he had planted a seed. And though empire dismissed him, and even his peers doubted him, that seed grew, watered by history, tragedy, and resilience. Today, millions of people live in a country that began as an idea in his mind. Theodor Herzl taught the world something powerful. That ideas, when combined with action, can change the fate of nations. He was not a warrior. He was not a king. He was a writer, a dreamer, and ultimately, a builder of the impossible.